Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Jay Frost, and I'm honored to welcome you to the 11th season of the Philanthropy Mastermind series, and to the first live episode of How to Raise here in 2026. Hard to believe that we're saying it's 2026. Wherever you're joining us from today, and I want to thank you for being here and for being part of this extraordinary global community of fundraisers, nonprofit leaders, researchers, and champions of all things social good. It's great to have you. Before we begin, I want to express our deep gratitude to our sponsor, EverTrue, of EverTrue Studios, of course, a division of EverTrue, which acquired our longtime sponsor, DonorSearch, at the end of 2025. DonorSearch hasn't gone away. They brought all those forces together. They can tell you about all that. This is the non-commercial series which they sponsor, along with other shows that I'll tell you about later. Of course, for nearly a decade, DonorSearch has supported this series and helped make all these conversations possible. We have well over 800 episodes of this content. You can see all of that over at our friend's website at donorsearch.net. And now with EverTrue Studios, we're excited to continue and to expand this work together, bringing you more conversations, more insights, and more opportunities to learn from the very best in our field, which we're going to be doing today. And so speaking of participation and all that, this is a live program, unless you're watching a recording, in which case you're welcome to. And we encourage you to be part of it. So please introduce yourself in the chat. I can already see that we have some people doing that. So we love that. Thank you so much. Let us know maybe which part of the country or the world that you're from, perhaps which organization you're with or what you do. We would love to have all that information both for our presenter today. It really helps if you're presenting to an audience you cannot see or hear, to know something about the people in the crowd. And also, it's a great way for you to get to know one another. So please do use the chat vigorously and completely throughout the session today. We also have Q&A, and I want to encourage you to utilize that for any questions that you have. So once again, use the chat for chat, use the Q&A to make sure that we don't miss the questions that occur to you throughout the course of the presentation today. Both of those are available throughout. You usually find them at the bottom of your screen if you haven't looked yet. We're going to reserve time toward the end of the program to bring your questions directly into the conversation, so we'll let them stack up for a bit. Unless there's something urgent, we'll tackle those at the end. So don't go away in the middle, because we want to make sure you hear the answers to your questions live today. Now, today's topic couldn't be any more timely or more consequential. And I can even see that, frankly, from the chat, where we have a number of different AI tools that are trying to generate some kind of transcript or engagement with the content today. We're here to explore donor attention in the AI era, how fundraisers cut through the noise. We're obviously living through a really profound shift in how donors discover, evaluate, and ultimately decide to support our organizations. And AI is increasingly shaping what donors see, what they trust, and how quickly they act, if in fact they act at all. So in this environment, understanding how attention is earned and how trust is established has become central to our work. And our guest today is one of the leading voices in discussing that very topic. Dale Nirvani Pfeiffer, CEO of Giving Compass and the author of the forthcoming book, Artificial Intelligence for Nonprofit Fundraising. She's a leader at the intersection of AI and philanthropy, helping nonprofits and donors use tech responsibly to drive greater impact. Just a little snapshot from her bio. She was named a 40 under 40 business leader by the Washington Business Journal, honored as New Zealand Women of the Year in the community category. And the company she founded, Good World, was recognized by Fast Company as both a world-changing idea and one of the most innovative companies. And through her work, Dale has focused on strengthening donor decision-making, advancing data equity, and ensuring that AI serves mission-driven organizations with integrity and with purpose. It's really a pleasure to welcome Dale to the stage for the first presentation this year. Dale?
Hello, everyone. Jay, thank you so much for such a warm welcome. It is so wonderful to be here. And thank you so much to DonorSearch and EverTrue for hosting us. Really appreciate the opportunity. And it's just so nice to be here with all of you. I feel like fundraisers are my community. I spend so much time talking with donors these days, and it's just so nice to be, back at home with my home community of fundraisers. And, fundraising is something I've been passionate about for so many years. So, and to see all the people coming in here in the chat, oh gosh, from everywhere around the country. We've even got someone from Kenya here. Shout out to Dr. Peter from Kenya. I'm originally from New Zealand, which is where my accent comes from. So hopefully I'll try and talk slowly. Please feel free to give me a shout out if you need me to talk more slowly or anything. I see a lot of people. There's someone from Puerto Rico. Um, from Charlotte, not too far. I'm actually sitting in Washington, DC here at the moment, where I live. Giving Compass is based both in Washington, DC and Seattle these days. We've got someone from Maine. Oh, I love Maine. I had a beautiful vacation there last year. So, Florida, gosh, what an amazing group from all around the US. So lovely to see you all in the chat. Um, so here I'm going to share my screen. Just give me 2 seconds. Here we go. Here's the share button. Um, and all right. Sorry about this, folks.
I'll let you know as soon as it's up on the screen, Dale.
Thank you. All right. I think we are good to go.
It
Maybe,
looks like it's loading.
maybe at the speed of the internet. Um,
It's probably AI working against us. Ah,
can you
yes,
see
there we
now?
go.
Oh, great, great, great. Perfect. All right. All right, everybody. So, yeah, so it's really, really great to be here. So first of all, I just wanted to say, please make sure you drop your questions in the chat as we go. As Jay said, AI is still so new, so we're all learning about this real time. And, I'm going to share what we are seeing at scale at Giving Compass, but I would love to learn from you too. So, we all have valid experiences when it comes to AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So please add your comments, reactions, even quick anecdotes in the chat. And I promise you I'm reading along and I'd love to connect afterwards as well. So, as Jay said, I'm Dale, I'm the CEO of Giving Compass, and from that seat, I'm privileged enough to observe how more than 2 million donors research nonprofits each year on our website, which means I spend this alarming amount of time watching people click, pause, compare, hover over donation buttons, scuttle away, sometimes push them. It's a bit like people watching, but for philanthropy. So instead of watching people at coffee shops, I'm like looking at them over AI research flows or nonprofit profiles. And what this has taught me is this. So, for most of my career in philanthropy and fundraising, we operated on a simple belief. And that was if we tell a compelling story, donors will give. And to be fair, that worked for a long time. We got really good at telling stories. We got very good at emotional resonance and really good at crafting an appeal very carefully to hit just the right way. But unfortunately, we're not operating in that environment anymore. Our environments are increasingly mediated by AI, even when we don't expect it. And as a result, donors are now comparing many organizations in a very short period of time. They're constantly sort of bombarded and interrupted by many, many things, texts coming from their phone, notifications on they're constantly bombarded by things and distracted. And increasingly, their questions are answered about our organizations before they even reach our websites. So, in my view, the donor constraint isn't generosity, it is attention. And donor attention is so important because who gets that precious donor attention determines who gets funded. So, a little context on Giving Compass for those who may not know us. We're a donor education and discovery platform. We're a place that people learn how to give more effectively, to research organizations, and decide where to donate. So, alongside donor education, our mission is to increase the visibility of high performing, important community based organizations. Now, these are normally smaller organizations embedded in communities that don't often have the resources to compete for attention. So if you have questions and we profile them on our website. We actually profile all organizations on our website, but we give special attention to these smaller community-based organizations who have traditionally not seen their fair share of the funding. And we're a bit of a kind of a matching ground for nonprofits and donors. So if folks have more questions about Giving Compass, I'm happy to go into them in the Q&A. It's a completely free service for nonprofits. And as I said, each year we get about 2 million donors coming to our website to navigate the giving process. And these are all sorts of donors. You know, they're not just high net worth donors, although we do get high net worth donors. We get a lot of giving advisors on our website. But we also have everyday donors, people who really want to make an impact with their philanthropy. They're giving $50, they're giving $5,000. We work really closely with donor advised funds to provide education to their donors as well, both inside their portals and on our website. So you'll find a lot of donor advised fund holders sort of on Giving Compass learning about where to give. And then we see big surges when there's a crisis. And we also have a lot of people who are just real fans of local giving, like we are. So a lot of them arrive with a kind of an intention to give, but they arrive with limited time. So what we study is not just who gives, it's how they search, when they hesitate, where they drop off, what signals actually change their decision. So when I'm talking about donor behavior today, this isn't just theoretical. It's really based on all of these insights that we've got from observing traffic on our platform. And occasionally at me wanting to yell at the screen when they bounce, honestly. But what we consistently see is this. Donors care, but their attention is fragile, and small design choices can change outcomes for organizations. This work also draws from the same research behind my book, Artificial Intelligence for Nonprofit Fundraising, that will be released in April. You know, and I wrote this book because I kept seeing the same thing. Really smart fundraisers like you all trying to figure out how to use AI, but with just so little clear guidance. And the focus of the book isn't tools, although tools can be a really important part of our arsenal as we fundraise. But it's really about judgment. It's about how we can build trust while doing AI fundraising and about how we can make good decisions. Um, you know, how well we manage, you know, it's really about how well we can manage AI tools and systems without losing the human core of fundraising, which is so important when our industry is so based on trust. So it's a really practical book and not hypey. So, and just a little bit about me. I'm a nonprofit fundraiser, CEO, obviously donor behavior research nerd, and I care a lot about equity and philanthropy. I'm really interested in AI-mediated discovery systems because I believe when discovery changes, capital flows change. And that really matters. So we'll talk more about that in a bit. I see myself as a lifelong learner, so please let's learn together again. And yes, this is my dog and my dreamboat of a man during the snowstorm 2 weeks ago. And my dog does not care about donor research or AI-mediated discovery systems. She only wants pets and treats, which frankly is very grounding. All right, so let's jump in. The old model. So, for most of my career, fundraising rested on this assumption: tell a compelling story and donors will give. And boy, have we told stories. We've authored thousands of blog posts, social media posts, impact reports, annual report, fundraising decks, grant proposals. And that used to be enough, but that was in the old world, which was a much slower environment. The environment that we exist in is not slow anymore. Donors compare nonprofits in seconds. They decide really fast about whether they'll give. And they often use AI to answer their questions before they reach us. So the rules have changed. So this assumption about telling a good story and donors will give, breaks down when, you've got lots of different options about who to give with, and they're right beneath your nose as a donor. You're constantly, your attention's being pulled away. And, you're feeling under pressure to get things done and you need to accelerate your decisions. So, don't right now with AI technology, donors can compare 10 organizations in a couple of minutes. And they're constantly like lots of different lots of different ways and lots of different mediums that are coming at them that they're learning about organizations, that are email, search, text. Um, so the story is no longer about competing with one another. It's about competing with everything. It's about all of these signals coming in. And that changes the math of philanthropy. Generosity, again, I don't believe is the problem. Charitable giving in the US totaled, nearly $6 billion in 2024. So capital exists. What is scarce is donor attention. It's the ability to be able to capture that donor attention. It's that last mile. We're all communicating, we're all telling stories, but how do we get that under the donor's nose? And how do we capture their and keep their attention at that moment to make it grow through to a donation? So, what's changed? We're no longer competing with only nonprofits. We're also operating in decision environments that are shaped by AI. And some of these we're not even really that aware of it, like search engines now. Even if you Google, there's a lot of AI components, and search is an AI, has always used AI. Inbox filtering, recommendation engines, all of this is infused with AI. And these systems decide what appears first. And that's what they make their own, they do their own math. What looks credible, what earns a click. And most of us didn't design these environments, yet our missions really depend on the way that they function. So, now that AI mediates across nearly every channel, it really shapes what we see as donors, what feels legitimate. It shapes what gets surfaced as recommended. And most importantly, and a really uncomfortable truth, is that it also chooses what never appears at all. In a world of abundant choice, invisibility is very decisive. If you are not surfaced, you are not considered. And large organizations have teams to optimize for this. They have SEO budgets, they have data infrastructure, they have content strategies. Small community-based nonprofits, they're running programs, they're serving families, they're showing up in crisis. They don't have a growth marketing department. They're busy doing the work. But AI systems increasingly determine what gets seen, and then visibility becomes structural. And structural visibility shapes who gets funded, which means this isn't just a marketing problem, it's also an equity problem. So more on that later on. But even as small organizations, I'm the CEO of a very small nonprofit. The structural visibility can really help us. It helps determine who gets seen and who gets funded. In an increasingly AI-mediated world, a real question becomes, where is AI influencing donor decision making? So this is not in one place. It's not at the end of the funnel. It's now across most of our communication channels and in every layer of the decision-making process. It influences discovery, it influences visibility, it influences trust, and it influences comparison. And often it influences the decision before a donor even reaches your website. So let me show you what this looks like. Let's look at what's happening in search. In 2024, 58.5% of US Google searches ended in zero clicks. Zero clicks. That means in most search, nobody visits a website. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. At the same time, AI overviews now appear on about 16% of inquiries. So that's a meaningful share of searches. Google is summarizing and providing an answer to questions before a donor has even had a chance to click. So put all that together, and the implications are simple. A growing proportion of donor intent is resolved as decisions are made before inside of a search page, not on a nonprofit's website. So that shifts the playing ground. It's not just how strong is your website landing page, it's does it surface at all? And what does AI say about you when it does? And yes, it is slightly rude of Google now doing that reading for people after we spent about 15 years perfecting our about pages. And it's not just search. AI is also intermediating email. So email used to be a direct channel. We wrote messages, we hit send, a donor opened it. It's no longer how it works. Today our inbox algorithms decide what gets surfaced, what gets filtered, what gets summarized, clipped, and again, what never gets shown. So before a donor evaluates your message, a machine does, which means your emotional appeal has to pass a math test first. The algorithm does not care how long you spent rewriting that subject line 20 times. The data shows the impact of that shift. So last year, nonprofits sent an average of 62 emails per subscriber. Sorry, that's roughly more than one email a week per organization. Volumes increased 9% year over year last year. In 2024, but the noise was measurable, and engagement did not increase with it. The average click-through fundraising rate was only about 0.5%, and it gets tighter. The average donation page completion was about 12%, and that number had declined. So even when someone clicks, nearly 9 out of 10 do not complete a gift. Put differently, it took 1,429 fundraising emails to generate one gift. Let that sink in. That's not a motivation problem. That's not donors suddenly stop caring. It's a bottleneck issue. Attention is being filtered before humans ever get to engage. And there's another layer. Open rate themselves are now unreliable because of privacy protections, like Apple Mail, for example, Apple Mail privacy protection. It preloads content and obscures true engagement. So the metrics we used to optimize around are a weak signal, which means the strategy has to evolve. We don't know because Apple Mail Privacy Protector preloads the engagement. We might see that showing up as an open, but it doesn't. It's the privacy protector. So the metrics that we used to use optimize around our weak signals, which means we need to evolve. So email is no longer a pure messaging channel. It's another AI mediated attention channel. So the question shifts from how do we write better subject lines? That's a very different problem. Websites used to function like guided tours. A donor would search, click, read, and compare, and then decide. It was sort of linear, they would come onto the website, homepage, go to the about page, read the programs. It was sort of like a journey that you could guide a donor on to learn about your organization. And we felt like we were at least in control of some of that journey. Well, that's no longer how people behave. Particularly these AI forward donors. Here I'm talking about a group of donors who are, really leaning into AI. And as we see, like more and more donors are becoming this way. Those people, they come, they scan information. They're sort of reading, like we all know what AI results look like. They're scanning down the page. Sort of, they compare instantly to information that they've already learned about your organization through AI. So they're arriving pre-informed. And then they exit quickly with if trust signals are weak. You see here this funnel on this slide. They might be here, they might be asking AI all about your organization before they come to your website. They might be looking at AI overviews on Google. And then, so they're gathering lots of different information before they come, and then coming to your website sort of to scan, to compare what they've read to make sure it's consistent. But they will exit quickly if trust signals are weak. Uh, and the median session time is just over 2 minutes. So, and like I think that what this is saying to us is we don't have as much time for a narrative arc anymore. What we have time for is clarity. With these, really AI for donors, websites are no longer learning journeys like they used to be. They're really decision checkpoints. And so here I'm just pulling up UNICEF's, I Googled UNICEF, and this was the AI summary, AI overview that came up for UNICEF. So we can see a little bit what it looks like in practice. So when somebody searches for, so here you can see like before they even visit the website, there's a whole lot of synthesized information there laid out very clearly. It's got its mission, scale, funding, impact, and it really structures the first impression that a donor has of your organization. So again, by the time they reach their website, they already have a mental model. They're not asking sort of much, who are you? Although they may come and do a much deeper dive, a lot of people in this time constraint environment that we're in, they're asking, does this really match what I read on AI? Which is so back to front, right? This really doesn't seem right. But that's what they're looking for. These really AI forward donors, they're looking, they're scanning, they're validating on your website. They're looking for sort of inconsistencies. So the first impression is increasingly shaped by the algorithm, not always so much your homepage. So this is the key behavioral shift that we see and that I'm proposing. So AI first donors don't browse, they validate. They arrive with context from search, from summaries, AI generated overviews, from recommendations produced by AI. They're not exploring from zero. They're coming from they're confirming a direction they're already leaning into. So the job of your website with these donors changes. It's not to persuade from scratch. It's to quickly confirm credibility, relevance, and clarity. And when validation is the goal, friction becomes fatal. Donors stop if a decision becomes too effortful or ambiguous. If trust appears late, if next steps are unclear, if there's too much information and the cognitive load is too heavy, they're having to slow down to figure out which way to go and think harder, they bounce. And not everybody. I'm just saying what I've seen from all of observing all of these donors. But this friction is really, really a huge barrier for these types of donors because they live in an AI-mediated environment. And, information comes so quickly, and alternatives are just like a one click away. So the decision, so it's really really important to make sure that you're designing these websites for a lack of friction and not so much copy. So this is where many organizations misdiagnose the problem. It's not just about capturing, it's not just that capturing attention creates awareness. But awareness does not equal action. We have two parts to the job. First of all, we need to capture awareness in these AI mediated channels, and then we need to hold that attention through to action, which is, volunteering, donation, whatever action that you're guiding them to do. And what that requires is clarity, a really clear donor journey. Are you making it crystal clear, these journeys that you want them to take through your website? So momentum, great storytelling is still important. Um, but these donor journeys, I would say, are a first thing to work on. Still need to create momentum in terms of great storytelling and confidence, so validation signals. So attention gets somebody to your page, and I would say what I would call decision design gets them to give. And most fundraising teams are optimized for attention, and fewer are optimized for completion. And in an AI mediated world, completion will give you the advantage. So up to this point, we've talked about what has changed. So now let's jump into the opportunity. And there is really a lot to say about this topic. And we're just going to scratch the surface today. But there is some opportunities for some deeper learning that I'll talk about at the end, and where we could really dig in and really work with you and your organization to really sort of master this. So, I think fundraising performance today my thesis is that it's less shaped by messaging and more shaped by decision design, which is a new skill for, many of us in fundraising. It's really a skill that's been developed over in the world of UI, UX. And, it's something that we're all really having to learn. And we actually have really strong evidence for this shift. There's a lot of real world field experiments beyond what we've seen at Giving Compass about changing structures such as flow and format produces some statistically significant behavior changes. For example, on one study, a simple, a simple a nudge, like a pop-up box for a donation, increased participation in that donation from 88.8% to 97.8%. So that's a really powerful nudge. And we use a lot of pop-up boxes over at Giving Compass to help guide donors on their journeys. And in another study, a humble nudge on a shopping cart increased items donated by 28.6%. So again, this is, somebody is on a journey and they're somewhere and you want to take them off, send up a pop-up box. Can you send up a nudge to get them to take them on a journey on the journey that you want to take? Are you capturing their attention and taking them to action? Nothing emotional about these stories change. It was simply the structure. So as it turns out, donors don't always hate guidance. They just love clear pathways. They hate friction. All right, design for decisions, not messages. That means structuring choices so donors can decide quickly and confidently. So again, most fundraising teams, and this is not our fault. This is just the way that it has been. Things are changing super quickly. We're really optimized for storytelling, a lot of us. Fewer nonprofits are optimized for reducing uncertainties in donation flows. And what that really means is fewer clear options. We want to put fewer options out there so donor journeys are clear. We want to make our pathways very visible as we're as we're moving forward. And sequencing that really builds a confidence with validation, with external trust signals, and with powerful copy. So, we're not trying to impress someone. We're just really trying to make it easy for them to say yes. Because, with these AI forward donors, again, a lot of them have got a lot information from AI before they've come to our websites. So we want to make a super simple journey for them to say yes for the actions we want them to take. So when decisions feel easy, completion rates rise, and when decisions feel ambiguous, they will bounce, and momentum will collapse. Um, so, what does decision design look like in practice? So, again, there's a lot on this topic, but here are a few clear options. Once again, visible pathways, sequencing that builds content, and I'll show you in a second. We've been doing some experimenting at Giving Compass around what the sequencing of a powerful story looks like, and I'll show you that coming up here next. That we have real world evidence. We have real world evidence that structure changes behavior. Um, I'm just going to pop off onto this next slide here because I think this is a real powerful example. So this is at Giving Compass, we work with several of the largest DAF providers on to help their donors with donor education, both inside their portals and outside their portals. And one thing, that we've been doing a lot of experimentation with is will a donor return more quickly when information is structured in ways that we believe is clear? So we've been doing a lot of sort of experimentation with this, working with DAF providers to see if we provide very clear stories, will the time between donations decrease, um, you know, and and also like about storytelling in the portals. Like, how can we tell a story side of a donor portal that is creating the most opportunity to unlock a donation? And this is not, again, this is information that is all coming from nonprofits. It's all being reported by nonprofits. None of this is AI goop. We are very, very anti that at Giving Compass. Essentially, what this is doing is it's picking up on the communications that nonprofits are making, and it's taking it the last mile to make sure it is grabbing that donor attention. Because we know that donors are in these portals looking at nonprofit profiles. So, we're bringing in the impact reports, we're bringing in impact stories that nonprofits have reported on social media and in their impact reports, etc. So this is sort of, bringing these structured stories the last mile to a place where we know they have donor attention to see if they will unlock another donation more quickly. So, looking at this case study, Make-A-Wish, Disney's 100th anniversary campaign. What stands out isn't just that the $30 million impact, it's the clear headline, the clean numbers, the simple framing. And you kind of immediately can understand the scale. $30 million created over 7,000 wishes. So you don't have to hunt for it. It's not embedded in a blog and a thick wall of text. It's right there and just sort of is very obvious for donors to see. That's the design. And the story has been sort of structured with one of our DAF partners as, for validation. So very quickly, it allows a donor to answer a question. Is this real? Is this measurable? You can see the measurable part. Is it credible? It's not about better storytelling. It's about that better architecture. So architecture builds trust sometimes better than adjectives. So in this slide is showing the back end and how we actually construct these stories. So you can see that the impact story, we call these impact stories, they're broken down into stages. The moment before, the moment of happening, afterwards, and what it overcame. And so a story, like an impact story structured like this, reduces the cognitive load because of the sequencing. So instead of like a bigger wall of text that donors are trying to kind of mine information out of, donors see really clearly the progression, the causality, the resolution. That support, this structure have found in our research supports momentum in terms of people actually going and making that donation and closing that action. Again, not better adjectives, better scaffolding. So trust must appear earlier than most fundraisers expect. So the independent sector reported that 57% of non-Americans report high trust in nonprofit right now. I think we can be really proud of that as a sector. It's higher than most other sectors out there. So but trust in wealthy individuals engaged in philanthropy is only 29%. So trust is not abstract. It really does shape where capital flows. Um, the data shows that when donors perceive financial transparency, for example, trust increases in a way that's statistically significant. So transparency isn't cosmetic, it's measurable and it shapes trust. And I think the types of things that we want to see here are, you know, your charity navigator and candid gold stars. People, if you've been through that diligence, people sort of make that cognitive shortcut, that you're trusted. We want to see quotes from users. We want to see these impact stories. We want to see metrics, but paired with stories so they kind of appeal to the head and the heart. We want to see other funders who have also are supporting your organization. All of these things structured really up in front on your website are a great signal of trust and credibility. So again, trust is not created by emotions alone. Emotions for our storytelling can open the door, but trust is what happens when someone's allowed to get to the end of their decision and complete the transaction. So, it emerges first from transparency, that clear use of funds. So we want to make sure that our annual report is there, that it's showing the clear use of funds, that we're showing that we're in good standing with the IRS. Clear impact reporting. So let's get really clear about and really crisp, clear impact stories. This is the impact that we're having, and really, without a lot of copy, again, we're designing for decisions, not so much emotional appeal in this new AI-mediated world. So, and a clear understanding of how the organization operates. When donors can verify quickly, their hesitation drops. Second, consistency is a really important thing for trust. So our mission, our language, our numbers, they should match across our websites, our reports, third-party listings, and what AI is surfacing. Because in an AI mitigated world, inconsistency creates doubt instantly. So we want to make sure all of our profiles, I know they can be a pain and take a lot of time to update, but we want to make sure that all of our external profiles on infrastructure, philanthropic infrastructure engines and fundraising platforms and all those good things are up to date. And thirdly, recognizable. Thirdly, third-party validations. We talked about public filings, structured data, and clear metrics. Make sure they're right up on your side. Because these reduce cognitive load for our donors, and they really, if we can see these quickly, it really helps them move from, you've captured their interest, it really helps them move into action. And importantly, AI systems are designed to verify, extract, and summarize structured, verified information. So if we have this information structured on our website in the right way, the AI is going to be able to pick up on it. And that's when you're going to get much more accurate, up-to-date summaries, AI generated summaries, and you're going to get a much more accurate representation of your organization. So, trust isn't just accidental. It really needs to be designed carefully into our websites. Again, here's another AI generated summary. Like, let's look where it's happening. This one for Greenpeace. I just did a Google search and this is the AI generated summary that popped up for Greenpeace. So notice what the interface is doing. It's extracting the structured information from and putting it in a structure on the page. It's organizing into different categories: mission, funding, impact, location. And if you go through, if you have a look at the UNICEF slide, UNICEF AI overview and the Greenpeace one, they're fairly similar. So this is a really great cue for us. This is the type of information that we need to make sure is very clearly structured inside of our website. And it's also, surfacing sort of other things in the other, like for the other, like important things that we need to get right, like transparency. It's saying, you know, it's showing, their values page over here in the comments. So, showing transparency, and again, like, we're all still learning and understanding what it is that's really going to get us, what's going to get like us really noticed and represented well by AI. But we can notice here that our values over here. So, values could be a great sort of transparency sign. Credibility, we've got a Wikipedia listing over here. So Wikipedia could be a really, really, and we often see this for AI overview. So Wikipedia is a really important, it could be a really important for validation. Um, so yeah, and also you can sort of see, down there at structure, there is information about impact. There is, it's all about showing up in a way that matches how the information, on your website, it's matching how the information is being structured by AI. Because increasingly, again, your first impression may not be your homepage. Another important point for the how is simplification generally outperforms persuasion. And this is one of the most consistent findings that we've found across digital fundraising. Um, and it's really about that again, capturing that attention in this attention scarce environment that we live in. For example, one of the experiments that we ran at Giving Compass, we found that short form targeted video dramatically increased the donation likelihood. So, in our research, we found that people who watched a 15 to 45-second short video were 4 times more likely to give. So, not your 5 minute gala video. These were reels that were very carefully crafted to answer, to help a donor along on their journey by answering the questions that that nonprofit knew that a donor would be asking for their experience. So again, like simplification, a simple short video. If you put your 5 minute gala video up there, you're going to lose people. You may lose people if they are, don't have time to watch that. We need precision. It just really helps to lower our cognitive load. And we don't need to say more to get people to say yes. What we really need to do is to make it easier for them to say yes. All right, so this is something I'm very, very passionate about, which is data equity, because the truth of the matter is, decision environments determine who gets funded. And this becomes structural. Um, you know, Basically, most nonprofits are small and local, yet donor systems, they disproportionately, routinely, route their attention to large, familiar brands. And, donors end up going there. Their attention's scarce. That's what they see. This is a good nonprofit. They recognize it. So there's trust there and they may go in and donate. And I think it's not because they don't care. And actually, I've seen research that shows that many donors would rather give to their local communities. It's because the infrastructure, favors what's easier to see, verify, and summarize. And that matters. When visibility concentrates, funding concentrates. And, attention inequity becomes capital inequity. And smaller organizations doing just as incredible work with just less time to optimize their metadata can almost become invisible. So here's the tension. Donors want to give locally and effectively, but current systems prevent them from doing that just because there's very little information out there on some smaller nonprofits. You know, Big nonprofits have more resources. They have more resources to write more blogs. They have more resources to update their funding portals. They have more resources, to create bigger, better websites, to do more campaigns. They're just out there a lot more. They have a lot bigger footprint, online digital footprint than small organizations. And so, the way AI works is it's going the big LLMs, they've just got more information because it's out there on these large organizations. And they can, the organization is better structured on their website. It can see that there's, transparency, credibility, trust, because it's got all those signals. And so I am very, very passionate about making sure that, it's not that small organizations are not communicating. They are. I know this. I run a small nonprofit. We communicate as much as possible for our small team. I think like one of the things that we're working really, really hard on at Giving Compass is to address this issue of data equity and really try and go out and find, you know, and really go out and meet nonprofits where they're at and go and bring information that nonprofits are communicating, their annual reports, blog posts, all of that sort of stuff. Really bring that back to the donors, really cover that last mile, that last communication mile, because that if we know that if we know that otherwise capital will just keep flowing to the same organizations. And I think I have talked for way too long here, so I'm so sorry. Um, but sort of really quick, key takeaways. We don't need new tools to begin. We just need clearer decisions. Um, Donors are designed for scanning, not reading. Um, Surface trust signals immediately, um, and remove friction from coffee. And I mentioned we at Giving Compass, because we're so passionate about this issue, we're putting on a course around donor visibility and really helping organizations, really particularly small organizations, but all organizations, really helping folks structure their information and really hands-on help with discovery at their with AI. So you can find that on our website at givingcompass.org at our nonprofit resources. But I will stop there. I'm so sorry that I talked so long. And Jay, I think I have blasted through all the question time.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Dale. And I want to make sure that we read your contact information out loud, just for someone who might be listening versus
Yes.
looking at the slide. Can you share your contact data?
Yes. My email address is Dale, D-A-L-E, Dale, D-A-L-E dot P at givingcompass.org. Dale.p at givingcompass.org.
Perfect.
And you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm Dale Navani Pfeiffer, Dale Nirvani Pfeifer.
Yes, thank you so much, Dale. And if you wouldn't mind closing out the slides, I know we have some questions for you, and I'd love for people to be able to see you, because that's the one thing about Zoom, is that we shrink the person who shares all the information, and we want to be able to see you in your full glory as you have a chance to answer a few questions. So for folks who are with us live, we do see all your questions. We're going to take the liberty of addressing some of those now, if you have the time, Dale. So
Absolutely.
do stick around. And before we do that, if you have a final question, go ahead and pop it in. As you're doing that, I just want to share what's happening next in the series, because we're just getting started today. So first of all, this Friday, we released the first new episode in the PM podcast this year. And it features Trey Devi, who's the president of Interlochen Center for the Arts, a place very close to my heart and that of our producer, Jack Frost. He'll reflect on his leadership journey and the role of the arts in shaping lives and communities. Of course, he'll be talking about what it takes to provide the resources for that, but he'll also be just telling you his story, which is one of the things that's so special about that podcast. You can catch that wherever you like to listen to podcasts, and that'll be dropping also onto the DonorSearch YouTube channel and the DonorSearch website shortly after it goes live on all the places where you'd like to listen, Spotify, etc. Next Wednesday, we alternate these shows once again. So next Wednesday, we present the first Frontlines of Social Good episode. That's our news and views show. So if you'd like to know how the big events in the world are impacting us in our sector, that's the show for you. We're going to have live updates from people who are intimately involved with what's going on in Ukraine. It will be the 3-year anniversary of that invasion next Tuesday. And so the next day, we'll have Eugenia Mazurenko, who's the co-founder of Philanthropy in Ukraine and a board member of Voices of Children, talking about that from a very informed perspective about what it's like to be a nonprofit on the ground and what it's like to be a donor to that work. And then Shannon Watson, who's the executive director of Majority in the Middle, will be sharing her perspectives on the front lines of social change from someone who's right there in the thick of it in Minneapolis. So if you want to know what's really happening to our sector, check it out. That's next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Now, let's hear from you. And I think, Dale, you can probably see these questions. We have a whole stack here. Should we just start at the very top and work our way down?
Yes.
And so I think the first one was from Melissa, who had asked, when is the book available for purchase? So
Oh,
that
that's
was very
so
nice.
sweet. Yes, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. It's going to be released in April. So hit me up on LinkedIn and I will send you a copy as soon as it's free. I'd love to
Oh,
send you a copy.
wow.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn.
And then Peter had asked, I believe he's the gentleman from Kenya, if I'm not mistaken, that we're a young nonprofit involved in health and wellness. Which AI tools can we leverage to win grants? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Which AI tools can we leverage?
To win grants.
Oh, to win grants. You know what? There are so many incredible tools out there. Um, and yeah, I really hate to kind of recommend one over the other. There's Fundraise has a really has a great tool. Crescendo has a great tool. Um, yeah, I don't know why they're just popping out of my head at the second. Kindra's, but so Jay, you probably know as well. So yeah, there are some really good tools. I would say that most of them are the ones that I've used, and sorry, Keela was the one that was popping
Keeler,
into
yeah,
my mind. I
sure.
really like the Keela platform. It's simple and it's less expensive than some of the others.
And I
Um,
know there are
I
research tools
the
as well as research tools for looking for opportunities, as well as there are tools for
Absolutely.
generating those grant applications, as well as for the grant makers to help them manage the flow of the grants as well.
Absolutely. And some of those tools are actually they have the best ones have all of that combined. I think for Kenya though, a lot of them are pulling US data from the US grants, but I would say so I'm not sure about ones um but health and wellness. So yes, so for Kenya I'm not 100% sure, but I would say start there. Often if you talk to the folks when you do a demo, they will give you a free month as a trial so you can try it out. And I would really recommend that with any tools. If budget is an issue, you can also set up your own instance of GPT. Just set up your own GPT and make sure that you're not putting any sensitive information in there, but make sure it's all locked down with your privacy settings. Um, and you can put a lot of you can also try and put a lot of information about grant writing, everything in there, and then all of your previous successful proposals, and that can also help if budget is an issue, which I know it is for some smaller organizations.
We had a question from Mark earlier on, and you talked a lot about structuring the website, and you showed those examples from the Google AI results coming up at the top of our Google results now. But maybe this goes to the heart of that. It's Mark's question about, is redundancy more important now? So, in other words,
Oh,
making sure that the information exists in a number of places in order for it to be picked up by the AI.
I think redundancy on your own website is really important to get rid of. Let's make our websites as clear and crisp as possible. Particularly those key landing pages, and you want everything to be. So yes, redundancy is really, really important to get rid of. But redundancy across platforms is not like we want to have like your profile the same on Charity Navigator as it is in Candid, as it is in, any other platform that you decide to use. So, make sure that you're out there on all of these providers that are providing structured data about your organization. That's not redundant, but other multiple content on the website is redundant.
And I know we had a couple of other questions we're not addressing here because I think you covered them in the presentation, such as examples of pop-up boxes, etc. But if people have more questions about that, of course, I know they can reach out to you at Giving Compass.
Absolutely. And I'm
Um,
happy to jump on a Zoom with folks.
right. Let me see. Rebecca had said, are there any tools to analyze your site for AI, or any tools like SEO optimization equivalents?
Yes, there are tools to analyze your site with AI. There is an organization called AI for Social Impact, AI for SP, I think it is, SI.com, I believe it is, AI for Social Impact. And they have a benchmarking tool that you can benchmark yourself against both other nonprofits, but other organizations. And that will give you a lot that, not only will it benchmark you, it'll give you a lot of information about kind of where you sit and how things should be structured. I don't think, as far as and also like another one that I use sometimes that I find really good is an SEO tool called Surfer SEO. It
Hmm.
has really been created for, an AI first world. And that will also really help you structure information really clearly. So those are the two I would recommend.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And I know that the last couple of questions we had here kind of get at that question from different angles. So I hope that you found that addressed it. But there will be plenty of other questions that people have. And the question I always ask, and that I'll ask now, is if people are going to just take everything you just shared and boil it down, what would be that one piece of advice people can take away and apply right now so they can be mindful of this environment you've described and make sure their organizations are prepared to represent themselves right in this age of AI?
Yeah, I would say, we are no longer storytellers, although we are, that it's not our most important hat. Our most important hat, in many ways, is structuring decisions. We need to think so carefully about how people are receiving information, what flow that they're receiving information, and take them on that journey in a really not in a verbose way, in a very lean way, lean with language. So that would be my key. I think that's the key change that we're navigating right now. And yeah, so that would be my advice.
Thank you for all this, Dale, especially for that last piece, something we all need to chew on and work on. I know everybody watching gained a lot of both practical and kind of philosophically meaningful advice from what you shared today. And it was a great way to kick off this season. So thank
Well,
you so much
thank
for
you
all
for
of that.
having me. It's so
Um,
wonderful to be here with you all. So thank you so much.
It's great to have you. I want to thank, of course, Jack Frost, who is making all of this work in the background. So, Jack Frost, our producer, thank you, Jack. And Evertrue Studios for sponsoring this series and bringing all these programs, 84 this year, to you starting today. Now, before you go, two quick favors. If you are exiting right now, make sure to fill out that post event survey. Your feedback directly shapes what we build next. And every response is something we read, but we also utilize AI to make sure that we're looking at the things that arise up to the top and then build our programming around that, as well as your suggestions for presenters. So please do let us know what you think. It'll only take you 30 seconds or less. It's a very, very tight survey. Second, keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be sending a follow-up email with a link to this recording and today's slides. Thanks again to Dale for sharing those so you can revisit and share the conversation, perhaps with colleagues, get people thinking in the ways they need to about the times that we're in with AI. And don't forget that this Friday we'll release the PM podcast and next Wednesday, Frontlines of Social Good. Thank you so much for being a part of this, for being here today, and for the work you do. We'll look forward to seeing you all very soon.